We start with a discussion about TikTok. I could be convinced that I'm wrong, but I doubt that I will be. But I could be. In order to convince me that I'm wrong in my positioning on the issue, which I'll get into in just a moment, I need to know what tangible national security issues are at stake with regard to TikTok that are not at stake with regard to other apps on our phone or other devices. People that I have great respect for in the halls of Congress, and there are a few of them, have told us that our national security is at risk because a company by the name of ByteDance, B-Y-T-E Dance, owns TikTok, and that TikTok must be divested. This is government telling a business doing business in the United States of America who is allowed to own their business and who is not. Now, I understand the communist Chinese are at war with us, a war of information, a war regarding cybersecurity, a war involving internet intelligence, a war involving proprietary issues and advancements in technology. I get all of that. But what we are being told upon the passage of H.R. 7521, which happened earlier this morning, it was called the Protecting Americans from Foreign Adversary, let me get it right. Protecting Americans from Foreign Adversary Controlled Applications Act. For example, my good friend Gary Palmer from down in Alabama, and I've been friends with Gary for years, wrote in the passage of the act after his vote in favor of it, protecting Americans should be our government's top priority. This is exactly what we're doing with the Protecting Americans from Foreign Adversary Controlled Applications Act. This bill is not about monitoring content being consumed. It's about neutralizing a national security threat. Well, wait a minute. Which is it then? Are you protecting me or are you protecting government? Or both? To be clear, this legislation, he continues, does not ban TikTok. It requires TikTok be invested from ByteDance, its Chinese parent company. He went on to say once ByteDance divests its ownership of TikTok, it can continue to operate in the U.S. as long as it's no longer beholden to the Communist Party, the Chinese Communist Party, and cannot be used to subvert or threaten American national security. By the way, before I get into this any further, I'm very passionate about it. I need to do the pleasantries. I forgot to do the pleasantries, and I apologize. I was a little distracted. My bad. So it's episode 530 of our proceedings today. You can consume us on the radio, which to my knowledge is not a national security threat right now, although different people get in power and they'll call talk radio a national security threat. Find us at 99.7 FM on your radio dial. You can also find us on any application that the government still allows to run that streams music or information. Find us in that fashion by going to just whatever app store of your choosing or whatever application you use like Spotify or iHeart and type in Supertalk 99.7 WTN. You'll find us there. And then while the government still allows it to exist, we're on YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, Twitch. YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, Twitch. Look up Supertalk 99.7 WTN and you'll see my ugly face doing a radio show. Bell K, the illustrious producer of this broadcast, makes sure that everything that comes out of our speakers sounds as good as humanly possible. He chooses not to participate on the television side of things, which is why we lovingly refer to him as Headless Bell. He does, however, offer our titles for every episode, and today's episode 530 is entitled
Matt Murphy. Download his new personal info vacuum app at 997WTN.com.
So, A government big enough to kill.
No good? You didn't?
No, it's good.
Oh, okay.
No, it's good. I felt like I should just let it be and transition. It's good. It's good. How big do you want your government? When government encroaches upon civil liberty, they always do so by claiming that the good of the mass or masses is at stake. When the government decides that it's going to take away certain liberties that you currently enjoy, granted to us by God and certified to us in the Constitution of the United States of America and our philosophical founding document, the Declaration of Independence, when the government decides that it's going to encroach on those liberties, it uses the greater good as an excuse to do so. Always. Always. A government big enough to kill TikTok is big enough to kill you. A government big enough to kill TikTok is certainly big enough to kill the X machine, formerly known as Twitter, or any other social media platform. The reasoning is simplified because, after all, we all hate the Red Chinese, and rightly so. The Red Chinese are engaged in intellectual conflict with the United States of America on a regular basis, certainly from a cybersecurity level, and it's up to us to protect ourselves from that. I'm not diminishing whatever national security threat that might be out there vis-a-vis TikTok. I just don't understand it. I genuinely don't understand it, and I look forward to someone explaining it to me. What national security threats exist because of TikTok? You're saying to me, well, Matt, the algorithms are such by which they are allowed to get information. What information specifically? Am I granting them access to movement? What am I granting them on the app versus what are they gleaning from my phone? And at some point, does that not become a hardware problem, not a software problem? Now, I don't pretend to understand computers like many of you, I'm sure, do. And perhaps I'm being either naive or I just don't have the intellectual ability to understand exactly what politicians are talking about when they tell me that national security is at risk because of TikTok. What does that mean? Well, their algorithms are such that they get all of our information. So what I need to know is, are they getting information that I grant them by using the app, or are they getting all of my information on my phone? Because if they're getting all of my information on my phone, it would seem to me that that's a phone problem, not an app problem, because I only grant them access to the things that I grant them access to. So I don't really understand what national security threats we're talking about. I really don't. Now, let's talk about China for a moment. Is China a threat against the United States? Yes. Is China playing the long game? Of course. Is China's involvement in this app concerning? Well, sure. But do we not all have an ability to choose whether or not we decide to download the app or to participate in the app at all? What our government is telling us is that it knows better than us whether or not we should play in this arena. And if there are specific reasons why we should not, then can we please get specific about what those reasons are? That's what I'm missing. That's where my blind spot is. I do not understand, even if I were to grant you that they have access to my contact information and that sort of thing, and maybe that's what we're talking about. How does that threaten national security? Connect the dots for me there. What it feels to me like is that the government of the United States does not care for the Chinese government having a broader ownership of this company. And they would like to make that shift. I do not believe that that is the government's responsibility. Secondarily, it concerns me when we grant governments of any sort this level of power. We've done it in the past for very, very good reasons. The Patriot Act, I supported the Patriot Act when the Patriot Act came out because I allowed my emotions to control my rational thinking on the matter. And I said to myself, they'll never abuse this in the way that some are suggesting that they will. Come on now. They're never going to take the FISA court and pervert the FISA court to the point. I mean, after all, the purpose of the FISA court was to grant warrantless searches regarding people who were having communication with terrorists overseas. We were trying to catch the bad guys after all. What do you think they're going to do, guys? What, they're going to spy on a presidential candidate or something? Ha, 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 ha. He said in 2002, 2003. Be careful what you wish for because you might get it. Now, let me alert you to a few things that maybe it's uncomfortable for you to know. If you're that concerned with China being involved in the United States of America, and by the way, people on TikTok are addicted. There's no question about this. And I'm on record as saying, on balance, the internet has become a net negative. And if they're really concerned about national security, they should ban the internet. It's what China has done, essentially. Why don't we give the government the authority to vet all apps? Why don't we give the government the authority to vet all websites and determine at their discretion what they decide is a national security threat and what they decide isn't a national security threat? And I'm going to wait and see how that goes for you when you have a Democrat in control of the White House and Democrats in control of the House of Representatives and the Senate. Let's just wait to see how that goes. But here's the reality. If we're so concerned with what we're consuming on TikTok from a content perspective, or potentially what the platform itself is gleaning from our telephones, let me share a little information with you. Almost 90% of the pharmaceutical drugs that we consume in the United States of America are manufactured in China. You're willing to put drugs in your body that were made by little Chinese hands, but you don't want TikTok because that's a national security threat. Look at your phone, the very phone that runs the application that we're so concerned with. That's made in China as well. You want some more? We allow Chinese ownership of a variety of different organizations that would surprise you. The appliance division of GE, General Electric, an all-American company, is now owned by China. Stoves, refrigerators, washers, and dryers from General Electric, they've been around for more than 100 years. But starting in the mid-2010s, I think 2017, the appliance division of the company has been Chinese-owned. A $5.4 billion deal created one of China's largest acquisitions of an overseas electronics business. They own Smithfield Foods. $7.1 billion deal, which was completed in 2013, remains the largest purchase of an American firm by a Chinese company. Smithfield Foods, which was an icon of the American food industry, best known for its ham, bacon, holiday ham, owned by China. AMC, the nation's largest movie theater chain, was bought by China for $2.6 billion in 2012. And then there's, of course, the land. We've discussed this in the past. The fact that China has been buying up U.S. farmland in bits and pieces for a long time now, and they now own roughly, and this was 2 years ago, so it may have changed, roughly 400,000 plus acres of land owned by China. And some of this farmland is suspiciously close to United States military installations. China owns Motorola. China owns the Waldorf Astoria Hotel. I don't mean to turn the mirror back on you, because I don't know that there's any joy in that. But if you want to ask yourself how the communist red Chinese got their meat hooks into us to such a degree, I have a Matt Murphy challenge for you. I want you to go through your house and turn things over and see where they were made. You tell me. Once you do that, sincerely, once you begin turning things over in your house, once you begin going through your closet and checking your clothes, once you begin to understand the complicity that you have engaged in, unbeknownst to us, in large measure, then I think you'll begin to understand. Now, in terms of the government of the United States of America, the same government that allows Chinese spy balloons to traverse the entire continental United States and does nothing about it is now telling us that watching videos of dumbasses falling down stairs is somehow a national security threat. I'm going to need a little more than that, because I don't trust any of this. Any of it. Because I know how the government reacts. This is not a defense, by the way, this is not a defense of TikTok. TikTok is garbage, gutter nonsense. It is a defense of the First Amendment of the United States of America and the free exchange of concepts and ideas without interference from government. And there's your Libertarian Lunch monologue on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.